Today I'm going to talk to you about our first big assignment in English 111, which is the topic memo. If you haven't printed out or you don't have that picked up on your computer, go ahead and do that. Pause me, go ahead and do that, and then come back. Um, so the topic memo is the first piece, your first kind of foray into the main assignment that we're going to be doing for the whole semester. You're going to write everything that you do for the semesters on the same topic. You get to choose. It has to be something that is arguable, so at least two sides to the story. My best advice for you is to go on our library website, and I gave you a link to that on the Module 2 pages. So you have, look at a database called Opposing Views in Context. These are all um, academic level articles. Not all of them are peer-reviewed journals, and you have to have two of those for your actual paper, and I'll get to that in a minute. But they are all academic level. You don't have to worry about, oh, is this trustworthy? Is this not trustworthy? And so they're up there, and there are a couple thousand topics, so it should be pretty easy for you to pick something. So on this topic memo assignment sheet, you have kind of the setup for the whole semester paper. So don't think it's all about this. About halfway down the first page, it says the assignment in bold. And so that's where we're going to actually start from. But I want to make sure that you understand that you're going to do academic research. It doesn't have to be, 1,000 things to look at. You need at least 4 sources that you can use in your paper. My experience means that you're probably going to need to look for 10, and that way you'll have 4 or 5 that you can use. Make sure that you remember this is a formal academic paper, so be careful about your structure and your sentence structure and spelling and that kind of stuff. Thankfully, we have these lovely word processing programs that take care of most of that for us, but keep your eye open. You're going to write a research paper, and then you're going to turn that research paper around and make it into something that is publicly consumable. And by that, we mean something like a letter to the editor, or a poem or song that you make, or a cartoon, or a PSA, a public service announcement that is a video that's 2 or 3 minutes long. So that's kind of last in the semester. So anyway, make sure that you choose a topic that you're interested in, that kind of lights your fire. It's also helpful if you have a side for that. You already know what your side is, but make sure that it's something you can actually stand to look at the other side. If it's something that you are so diametrically opposed to that you can't even consider that the other side might have something to say, then don't choose that. Take it down a notch from that. Makes it easier to write about. It has to be academic in nature, so it has to be something you can research. Like I said, I would really highly encourage you to go look at the opposing views in context and pick something from there. This is also something that you need to limit to 4 to 5 pages. Well, at least 4 pages is how I'm writing this. So you're not going to be able to tackle the whole case of gun control, or the whole case of something like abortion, or even voting rights. You have to pick something that's a little bit narrower so that you can actually say something. By the time you give us the background, your 4 pages are up on some of those other topics. So doable, focused, yeah, that's helpful. Now, this particular assignment, the topic memo, is a business format. So the paragraphs are single-spaced. There's an extra space between them. It's very block style, and it's a memo style in that it has at the top, it has a different kind of intro for it. There's also a click within this particular assignment on the very first page that gives you a memo template. It's helpful for the stuff that goes at the top, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but otherwise it's kind of lame. So you have 4 paragraphs for your memo. You have to do the memo stuff at the top, which is to my name, from your name, the due date for the date, and Ray, the regarding part is your research paper topic, and then the word proposal. Now I'm going to read all these and say yes or no. I would say mostly yes. Make sure that you're doing things that are appropriate and that will work. 4 paragraphs. In the first paragraph, you're going to identify your topic and explain why it's relevant to today's culture. Okay, academic culture, your culture, my culture, whatever you want to do, but it has to be relevant in this. This is not a history research paper. This is an argument. Okay. Paragraph 2, discuss your personal connection to the topic. Whether that is, it was just something that sounded really interesting you hadn't thought about before, whether it's something that you're already very invested in, maybe you're already an activist, all of those, whatever comes down to that, it's your personal connection to the topic. And make sure that you're being honest about any personal biases, things that you might not be able to look at fairly, or any obstacles to this particular topic. Paragraph 3, what information do you need to gather? This is, I need sources that reflect both sides. I need to look at how this particular topic, I can make it logical, I can make it effective. You want somebody who is diametrically opposed to you to at least listen. They might not be able to agree with you, but they at least have to say, oh, yes, you've done your homework. You know what you're talking about. I can listen to this. So no screaming kind of stuff. Paragraph 4, identify the opposition to your argument and discuss how you might convince someone who opposes you. The question you have to think about is, who would reasonably disagree with me? Okay, so we're not talking about the other side's shouters either, and what might they say? How might you answer them? Perhaps they're looking at outdated information, perhaps this other piece that you know about is more important than that, or it has a higher value than that. Whatever it is, make sure that you're figuring out how you're going to answer that. Okay. Now, I will tell you up front, sorry, I have hair tickling me. I'm going to tell you up front that you need to make sure that what you're giving me today is honest and approachable. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you're stuck. If something comes along and you find this piece of information or you find this source that is just amazing and you want to shift your direction a little bit, by all means. That's what research is for. If you find out that you're wrong and you need to kind of reframe this entirely, of course, you can do that. Remember that we are running this class at double pace because we are an 8-week course doing 16 weeks of work. So you don't have all the time in the world, but, get things together. So for the length, you need 4 complete paragraphs, about a page. If it's a little less than a page, that's not a big deal. If it's a little more than a page, that's not a big deal, but that's kind of your goal, is to get a page of work done for this. The formatting, of course, follow the memo template, use 1-inch margins, use a 12-point font, use single line spacing in this particular document. So there's that part. It'll probably end up being about 500 words, and that's the other kind of goal to hit. The grading criteria here, 30 points for organization, 40 for development, 15 for grammar, and 15 for documentation. And the documentation part is basically that it fits the actual format that you're given. It will be up on a safe assign check. Those are things that check for plagiarism, things that show up in other papers, other databases and things. And your goal is to be less than about 20%. This particular one says, scores below 15% means it's mostly your words, right? It's 85% your particular words, and that's great. 15 to 40 is kind of like, oh, we're going to look at some things. Above 40%, you need to make sure that this is you talking, not somebody else. Okay. Please use your Microsoft Word freebie from the school. Do not use ODTs. They don't work very well on Blackboard. And your final, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you do a rough draft for Wednesday, and then the next day will be your final draft. Obviously, I may not be able to get to everybody's overnight, but you can wait until I do, and I won't count things late. So that's how that's going to work. Please make sure you have the memo template out when you're starting this off. The big deal, honestly, is just that first 4 lines, and those should be double spaced. Everything else should be single spaced. And actually, if you just hit enter at the end, it'll give you the spacing you need. So I hope that that helps you a bit. If you have questions, you have my email. So have a good day.